When you dig into the history of wartime and economic crises, one of the most fascinating and often overlooked stories is the way governments guided what people ate. This wasn't just about nutrition, it was about control, efficiency, and survival. From ration cards to public campaigns, authorities carefully promoted foods that were cheap to produce, filling enough to stave off hunger, and manageable at a national scale. If you think it's just old propaganda, think again. These decisions shaped diets for generations, and even influenced how survivalists and preppers today think about emergency food planning. During both world wars, governments faced a logistical nightmare, feeding millions while ensuring enough resources for the military. The solution wasn't just about shipping supplies. It was about steering citizens towards certain staples. Imagine being a housewife in London in 1941. Sugar was scarce, meat was rationed, but a simple bowl of porridge could keep your family fed. Governments didn't just suggest these foods, they created campaigns, published pamphlets, and even put recipes on posters. The foods they promoted were designed to stretch, to fill, and to keep the population under control without rebellion. Today, understanding these choices can teach modern preppers and history enthusiasts not only what sustained societies under pressure, but how to apply similar principles in planning for emergencies. Governments encouraged starchy foods because they were cheap, abundant and filling. Potatoes, rice and bread became central to diets during wartime rationing. Potatoes, for instance, were promoted relentlessly in Britain during both world wars. They were easy to grow in small gardens, packed with calories, and could be stored through winter months. Rice, often imported from colonies, became a substitute for pricier grains, allowing authorities to stretch limited supplies. Bread, especially government-subsidized war bread, was formulated to last longer and feed more people per loaf, even if it lacked the taste and texture of pre-war varieties. For modern preppers, these historical examples provide a blueprint. Focus on high-calorie, shelf-stable staples that can sustain you and your community when other options are scarce. One practical step is to diversify your pantry with potatoes, rice and hard wheat flour, and practice recipes that maximize their calories and nutrients. Proteins were often less accessible, so governments nudged citizens toward affordable alternatives that could be mass-produced and stored. In the United States, during the Great Depression and World War II, government campaigns promoted beans, lentils, and powdered milk. These items weren't glamorous, but they were controllable, transportable, and extremely versatile. Beans could be dried and stored indefinitely, lentils cooked quickly to feed a family, and powdered milk replaced fresh milk, which spoiled quickly. If you're building an emergency pantry today, consider adopting these same principles. Keep dried legumes, powdered dairy, and shelf-stable canned fish in rotation. Not only will these foods last, but they also give you a base for creating balanced meals without relying on perishable items. Governments also encourage the use of food substitutes and extensions, to make limited resources go further. During World War II, Britain promoted what they called mock foods, so meatless stews thickened with vegetables, powdered eggs for baking, and margarine instead of butter. These substitutions were sometimes despised by households, but honestly they worked exactly as intended, filling the population while controlling scarce commodities. Modern survivalists can, take a page from this strategy. Learning how to use flour to stretch meat, or powdered eggs in baking, or even root vegetables to bulk up soups can make a limited food supply last much longer. Practicing these substitutions ahead of a crisis ensures that the lessons of history don't become last-minute improvisation. Another fascinating angle is how governments linked food campaigns to morale and obedience. Leaflets, posters and radio programs didn't just instruct people on what to eat. They framed these choices as patriotic, virtuous and, well, necessary for the war effort. In Germany and Britain alike, citizens were told that eating the right foods was part of their duty. For the modern prepper historian, this highlights an important point. Food policy has always been intertwined with social control. Recognizing the political and social layers behind historical food campaigns allows us to better understand why certain staples dominated and how societies responded to scarcity. Practically, you can use this insight when planning for group survival situations. Clear rules on shared resources and structured use of filling long-lasting staples can prevent conflicts and ensure everyone's survival. Lastly, learning from these historical strategies isn't just about storage, it's about action. Start small by experimenting with traditional wartime recipes. Plant potatoes, legumes and fast-growing root vegetables in your garden. Practice extending meals with substitutes like adding oats to stews or powdered milk to baked goods. Track which foods last longest under rotation and notice how small adjustments in preparation can stretch meals significantly. This hands-on approach mirrors how governments of the past guided entire populations, giving you a microcosm of history while simultaneously preparing for real-world emergencies. Understanding the foods governments promoted because they were cheap, filling and controllable provides a dual lesson. It reveals the strategic mind behind historical crises and offers practical tools for modern preparedness. By focusing on staples, protein alternatives, substitutes and morale-driven campaigns, history shows us how societies survived under pressure and how we can adapt these lessons today. If this dive into history and survival intrigued you, make sure to subscribe to The Prepper Historian and share this video with fellow history enthusiasts. There's more to uncover about how people survived and thrived through some of the toughest periods of modern history, and you don't want to miss it.